What's up, guys? How's everyone doing today? We're live. It is Thursday, July 30th, 9:15 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, like this video. If you're not in our Discord, do that now. It's July 30th, 2 days away from our year anniversary of our Discord, our JSB Discord. It's growing. Become a member. You can join on YouTube. You can join on Patreon. It's a couple bucks a month. Whichever way you join, you gain access. If you guys are already JSB insiders on YouTube and you're not in the Discord, let me know. I'll send you the link. If you're a VIP on Patreon and you're not in the Discord, DM me on Patreon. Also, go to the YouTube members only section and go to the Patreon VIP section now and check your slips. I gave you guys another ticket today. So including our quarterly parlay that is about to hit that we launched June, July, and August, and then also including our July and August parlay, those are 2 tickets. You guys should have my boxing dog of the week, my UFC dog of the week, my UFC triple, my boxing quad, and then I also today gave you guys my knockout prop of the week. If you're new here, all of the tickets that I give you are my own bets. You can see my picks shoulder to shoulder with the boys. They're also all plus money. I'm never going to give you a bet that isn't at least going to double your money. What we're looking to do is continue our hot streak 4 weeks in a row. This will be, with how I see it, it'll make it a month straight, getting us back on track. We were on a 12-week run, January, February, March, starting out the year. April was good as well. Had 1 or 2 rough patches in late May, early June, and we're back on track. So for our squad, for our community, losing a couple bets is bad. We like hitting between 80 and 90%. Lately we're at 95% of our bets. So if you're new here, if you want to get involved, join our Discord. I'm going to leave that link pinned. It's also on my YouTube channel. It says join. So I'll get that off the screen. There's a lot to talk about. I have the Discord open now. I think it's an important teaching point, guys, to reiterate. Just because your book, this could be now or on fight night, this could be during the UFC or watching a Matchroom card. Just because your book is giving you options to bet on a fight, that doesn't mean you need to bet on the fight. And this is why I feel the most consistent bettors who bet on the sport of boxing and UFC, who win consistently like us, have boundaries. I'm not just gonna. I never chase. Strategically, I'll never chase. Meaning that I'm not. If I lose one, I'm not looking forward to make another bet. This is I'm in it for the long game. We don't have a season. We have action every week. I don't bet on anything else. So with that being said, there are a few. I know a lot of you guys we all like to be sharp. We like to find where the bookies have it wrong. That's how we make our money. A lot of these domestic British cards, domestic Aussie cards, domestic Japanese cards, domestic American cards will pair prospect against prospect, and you'll see on your books 50-50 odds. Just because it's a 50-50 fight doesn't mean you have to bet on it. Okay, I just want to leave it there. If you feel you're just throwing shit at a wall, you don't know either fighter, you've asked me, you've asked the boys, they've told you they're not betting on the fight, and you still feel you're going to bet on the fight, that's on you. Also, if you're here watching and you're betting on fights and you're only listening to me and you're tailing only me and you're not putting any energy of your own in, if you're not doing your own film study, if you're not watching the sport and you're not learning, don't bet. I've never once stood here and told you to listen to me. I've never once told you to only take my bets and that's all you have to do. I've never once said that. I don't know if other content creators are saying tail me. I've never even used those words, tail me. If anything, I don't want you to tail me. I don't want you. I want you to listen to yourself. I want you to get good at this. So we're growing a community. getting my tickets and seeing who I take is just one little small fraction of what we're doing. Okay. And those in the Discord know what I'm talking about. With that being said, I'm going to say what's up to the boys. 5 minutes in, we got 40 of you guys in here. Mike from Melbourne. What's up, Johnny? Looking forward to seeing Bobby Flood again on the O'Leary card. Great call on RBS. He looked amazing in his last fight. Punch variety, razor sharp reflexes, great range, and on the inside. I really like him. I like Royce and Barney Smith. Every time I watch him, I'm reminded why I like him. He's well coached, disciplined. He's entertaining. He operates in his own space. He can be aggressive if he wants to do. He can be patient if he wants to. I like how they're moving him. They're pairing him up against Reese Bellotti. Bellotti, I don't think it's shocking to say he's on the back nine of his career. We've seen Bellotti in more recent memory getting stopped as of late, mixed with RBS's youthfulness, his aggressiveness, his accuracy. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility of RBS seeking out a stoppage. We'll pull up the odds in a second. What's up, Goliath, my mans? How you doing? Rez finally caught a live. Yeah, man. I do lives. You know, I'm about an hour early of our usual time. I think I'm going to go live again today later on. I might do a UFC live today. Guys, I put up the schedule in our Discord. My Saturday morning in Sydney, which is your Friday night in New York City, and then Friday afternoon in Italy, I will be doing a live stream again. I'm bringing the boys back on to break down the Golden Boy card. Me, Paulie Malignaggi, Tommy Ranone from my channel. I'll create a notification for it and I'll book it in. But keep that in your calendar. So in 2 days, you'll see Paulie and Tommy once again on the show. Christos, morning, Johnny. Hope you're well. I do. Christos, I'm listening to Boxing Booth. So we have we have boots on the ground. We're an international community. You guys know that. So there's a card, you know, when we have a card in the UK, we'll reach out to some of the boys in the UK. We got British fighters in our group. We have a card this Friday in New Zealand. Now, I don't know much about domestic New Zealand boxing. We don't get a lot of the Kiwi boxing, even though I'm in Australia. We do have a former boxer and a coach who's a Kiwi who lives in New Zealand, who gave us in our Discord a read on, I'll bring the fights up. And Christos, I'll show you my ticket. And I played with Boxing Booth his write-up in our Discord. Okay, so these two fights go down Friday. So I'm not going to log in. So I played Wada on the money line. And then I played Cohen Ray on the money line, and I parlayed that. So, and this is me tailing. I'm tailing Boxing Booth here. Here's my ticket, so you know. Full disclosure. For me, I'm taking Wada and Ray on the money line, pays plus 302. Now, these bet 365. And this is what Boxing Booth wrote. So I'll read it to you. So I'm going to read this to you. This is one of our insiders who lives in New Zealand, who kind of has he coaches. He has a hand on the pulse of Kiwi boxing. And I trust him. You know, you guys trust me. I trust you. So I got a half unit play on a two-way double that goes down tomorrow in New Zealand, pays plus 300. He goes, Cohen Ray beats Francis Watai, I believe. He's too slick. He's a hidden gem. He's South African. Watai has slipped up every time he steps up. He's game as hell and a pure boxer. Shared the ring with him. He shared the ring with him 3 times in the amateurs and once in the pros. But Ray has too many tricks up his sleeve. If I get a bet you line, I'll hit Ray 100%. I've been going to these BX9 shows, so that's the promoter. He says, check Ray. So I jumped on it. Wada, this is the other fight. Wada looks good, but literally only seen her on the heavy bag. Nesbitt is a bit off the mark. Basic brawler style. Struggled with a 40-year-old last time I saw her live. The judging over here is pretty honest. Not enough money going around to rig it for the hometown fighter. So Wada, bit of a blind bet that is know nothing about her. But I don't rate Nesbitt. So that's that. It was enough for me to take Ray and Wada at plus 300. So to answer your question, Christos, that is my play. Half unit. And you don't have to take if you're not getting it, it's not the end of the world. I'm not sharing. I've only shared my play here on the live stream. I'm not giving it to the insiders. I look at a card like tomorrow for me personally. This is the way I look at it. We don't get many New Zealand cards, so me having action on two of the fights will allow me with better interest to tap into the New Zealand domestic scene. And so over time, as we continue on this journey, it's always more entertaining. I get to learn about fighters I've never heard of, and sprinkle a little bit of action on it. Nothing too heavy though. So that's my play plus 300. Shout out to Boxing Booth, even if he's off the mark. It's the effort that I appreciate, and it's a big value of our Discord. Our Discord is a betting academy, dude. It's amazing. I can't talk highly enough about it. I'm gonna pull up Sportsbet now, my normal book, and I'm gonna continue on with the chat. I have O'Leary and Conwell money lines and Zepeda on points for a smack. Let's go. I like it. Pierce O'Leary. They did the face-offs today in Dublin with Chamberlain. I don't think, I just think O'Leary's a level above. I think Conwell's going to get back on track. And I think Zepeda's just better than Roach. I think he's more dynamic than Roach. I think the more we get closer to fight night, the more comfortable I am with my Williams. And we got him at plus money. That like strategically how I bet when I'm going full unit on my dog of the week, you guys know this by now. You won't see my full unit dog of the week bet on other parlays because in my mind, and we get them right a lot. The stats are crazy. Our hit rate on dog of the week is insane. I went 16 weeks in a row. I think we're like 21 out of 23 weeks of hitting our dogs, which is a crazy hit rate. So when I go full unit on a dog of the week and we're getting plus money, obviously, and if it doesn't hit, it's not the end of the world. The boxing casuals might think it's the end of the world because they're usually like really highly contentious 50-50 fights, but we don't care. All we care about is our bankroll. So if one ticket burns in it, we move on. We have other action throughout the weekend. Do you know what I'm saying? So I am flirting with the idea of playing a Zepeda method of victory. I don't know which way yet. I know people think it's outlandish to even think he might stop Roach, but like I said, I think there's a world where I could see a late stoppage by Zepeda. So, but I know the popular method of victory is Zepeda on points. What's up, King? We're always good, baby. We're up. Hopefully you're well too. We're up. Give me confident picks, please. No, there's no such thing as confident picks, brother. You must be new to our channel. I got Zepeda. I like it. Good morning, Johnny from Melbourne. Just joined your Discord and Patreon. ART, what's up, buddy? Good to have you here. Just so you know, man, if you're in the Discord as ART, you could find my betting slips. I keep them on Patreon. So just go to your Patreon profile and click on me, and you'll see the VIP posts. You'll see all the slips there. I don't blindly post them anymore in the Discord for the sake of trolls. Our moderators do a great job of, kicking people out who haven't paid their dues, and you boys do an excellent job with being gracious and ethical. But there's always going to be a few, and I have a list. We only, of our 582 VIPs, there's only about 8 guys in there who have been freeloading, and I know who they are, and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But because of those freeloaders and some trolls, they used to take my slips and share them, and then just not not anything we want to do within our community. So I just keep them on YouTube or Patreon. Great insight, Shani. How much stock or interest after Joshua's tense fight early? Joshua's tense fight early on getting dropped. Are you Anthony Joshua? How much stock? I'm not. If we're talking about Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, I have zero interest. And that's not me being a hater. Brendan, I appreciate you and I appreciate the kind words. You know how we roll here. Our team, you included. We are a what's in front of us sort of community. Like what's directly in front of us. I mean, like in 24 hours, we got New Zealand boxing. In 36 hours, we have a card. And then we got the UK card. So unless something's in paper, I don't get excited about it. Unless it's booked in, I don't get excited about it. I'll sometimes entertain a potential world title fight between, if you want to ask me, hey, what do you think about 154 unifying? I'll entertain that conversation. It's exciting to talk about potential Boots fight versus Fedora or Boots versus Kelly, and then but when it comes to Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, I don't even think about those guys for various reasons. What's up, Johnny Sloot? Mags, what up? Dad, you better no. I stayed away from that fight. I don't, guys, realize I don't recognize you on the stream. Maybe you're always tapping in, so thank you. And maybe you're just now commenting because I don't recognize you. But no, I don't bet on every fight. The way I look at this is, and you'll see the book when I bring it up, I brought the analogy I use is a dinner table, right? And so we have multiple fight cards every weekend. And I'm also an MMA guy. So I watch all of the UFC fights. I'm a published author. So in my books, have former UFC world champions. I have boxing Hall of Famers. I've interviewed the contrast people like George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Evander Holyfield on the boxing side, and the MMA side, Royce Gracie, Stipe Miocic, that sort of thing. Why I reference that, there's usually an UFC card as well. So every weekend, if we usually have a UFC card and at least 3 boxing cards, we lay out all of the action on the table, right? And these are the live streams. This is us now. I figure that I'm really good at is picking and choosing our value, our money play. And sometimes the best bets we make as gamblers are the ones we don't make. You feel me? So last weekend, Sorenko and Otto Wallin, I was like, I'm not betting that fight. We had already hit a triple. We hit the money line triple in Japan on Tuesday. I was very confident in Tim Tszyu beating Errol, as you know. We hit every pick in Australia. And then, a lot of value on Jaleel Hackett. So Otto Wallin, I'm like, I don't like that fight. Sometimes you just don't like the fight, and you don't have to bet it. What's up? Told you Jeff Fennick teach him. Did you tell me? Mick, so you told me. Check my content out, mate. What's up, Bum? What's up, Johnny? Zepeda does have volume and cuts off the ring incredibly well, which only lasts 5 to 6 rounds. I got Roach money line and sprinkle on late. Nice, man. My issue with Roach, like I said, I don't mind this take. I like Lamont Roach. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. You know what I'm saying? I've been covering Lamont Roach for a long time. I feel that if he had a little bit more power, his career would look a little bit more differently. And I would look at this matchup a little bit more differently. But he doesn't. And if he had a little bit better feet and a little bit more hand speed and a little bit better reflexes, I would look at this matchup differently. But he doesn't. So I feel when you look at Lamont Roach and you talk about his legacy, his best wins are his draws. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. I think Zepeda, and I don't think it's controversial, I put him in top 5 in the world at 135, and I have always placed him up there. I feel that he's at least a level or 2 above Pitbull. I feel that Lamont Roach struggled at times with Pitbull, and I think Zepeda is going to just turn that up, and he does everything better than Pitbull. If you're gonna just play this game and think that Lamont Roach, that the Zepeda is going to, the Zepeda Roach fight is going to look like Lamont Roach versus Tank, and Roach is going to stand in the middle of the ring and have all these opportunities to catch and shoot, then you could bet on that. But I'm telling you, that's not what this fight's going to look like. Stylistically, it's not. Zepeda's not going to stand there and catch and shoot with him. Zepeda is a much better body puncher than you guys are talking about. That body work, I think, is going to, be the entry to the house. It's obviously the volume, pressure, and pace. Zepeda has a good jab. I think, like, getting Zepeda at plus money, like, I put my bet in, I think, 6 weeks ago. So that's what I see. We'll see. I don't like how Berlanga got all that shit. People gave Berlanga so much shit for doing a parade after a loss. This fool, and rightfully so, this fool did a parade after he lost to Canelo. When everybody was hating on him for it, I was like, man, you kind of, that's box. You kind of have to tip your hat to it. Could you imagine he did a victory parade after losing? And everybody gave him shit. Nobody gave Lamont Roach shit for doing a victory parade after had a draw with Tank. I don't care if you guys say he should have won. He didn't. It's a draw. On paper, it is a draw. He was going on this media tour, doing all these interviews. He didn't win the fight. History books will always say he didn't win that fight. No matter if you think he won that fight. He didn't get any shit for that. Nobody said anything. So when you look at what he is at his best, I think the best version of Lamont is actually at 130 pounds. I know he's fluctuated from 130 to 140. This fight's at 135. I don't like the matchup for him. I think stylistically, I think Lamont Roach is at his best against a boxer puncher or even maybe a slugger. Definitely not a swarmer. Definitely not a volume output swarmer. I think what Lamont Roach, his strengths are, they work better with a guy who will punch with him in 50-50 exchanges. He was winning those 50-50 exchanges, some of them against Tank. They're not going to look the same against Zepeda. And I think that swarmer pressure style, and Zepeda is sharp, and he can punch. He has an 82% knockout to win ratio for a reason. I don't like the matchup. As soon as I saw it was signed, I was like, ooh, this is... And then I was waiting for the odds. I jumped all over. I'm very confident in Zepeda against Roach. Five and one, I got it. Wada should beat Nesbitt. Wada better technical Southie. Live play the knockout. What's up, Rand? Live bet. I'm not a big live better. Zeus should drop back to 54. He looked too carved up against Arrow. Reminded me of late Fernando. He's not. He said he's going to stay at 60. I think he should stay at 60, and I think the matchmaking should be very specific who they pair him up with. Yeah, he's not going. He knows he's not. He said he's not going down to 54. He said it after the fight. He's staying at 160. I don't think he looked carved up. I thought he looked great physically. I thought he actually rehydrated well. He was obviously much bigger than Arrow in there. He was more physical than Arrow in there. He used his size against Arrow in there. I thought it was a good matchup for him, but it wasn't the same Arrow anyway. We know that. It's still shot. This is why I'm glad videos and YouTube and social media exists, because go to my Instagram wall and check my YouTube shorts and check the Stats Don't Lie video. It'll stay up until, the end of time. It's still shocking that we were able to get Tim Tszyu plus money. Absolutely shocking that people gaslit, brainwashed, delusionized the idea that Arrow would beat him. Roach defense is not good enough. Roach's defense isn't good enough for me. Lamont Roach fights like he's a big puncher as well, which isn't a bad thing. People are getting this really misconstrued idea of what sort of fighter Lamont Roach is. Lamont Roach is a guy who will stand and punch with you. You know what I mean? He's not Shakur Stevenson in terms of Shakur will stand and punch with you, but obviously Shakur is a different breed. But he's not a guy who's going to have this. He doesn't have the skill set of Shakur of being able to, be slick in and out, move in and out, use the entire ring, negate his defense, and use his defense to negate your offense. He has good timing. He has good reflexes. His power's not that great. His feet aren't that great. I don't like, his best moments happen in draws. Have you seen what the content creator Furious Masturbator has said about? No. I don't pay attention to anybody who talks about me online. Was it positive or negative? Let me talk to my girl real quick. Tank and Pitbull hit Buddy with some big shit. Pitbull's not like people think Pitbull's a massive puncher. I was never a believer in Pitbull's power, which might sound crazy. Pitbull, fun fighter, TV friendly fighter, star, former champion. But even when you watch his punching technique, like it's not like I put Zepeda above Pitbull. Looking at Lamont's career like that as a half glass full, everyone knows what happened in those fights. This is interesting. Yeah, true, but the psyche of a fighter, the psychological approach of a fighter matters as well from fight to fight. He has these really close fights. They don't go his way. No pro fighter leaves a 12-round fight unscathed. You guys know this, you leave a little bit of yourself in there. Roach for me, like I said, if this is going to sound crazy, I'm not a fan of fighters. I'm a fan of the sport. So you guys are there's over 100 of you guys in here. We're coming at it from a betting perspective as well. We're using logic, strategy, and then we have to look at the odds. Now, we will never take a fighter strictly odds based. I've never once taken a guy and say, well, I'm just taking that guy because he's the dog. No. But it should be mentioned, if Lamont Roach was plus 140, I would be really, really tempted in taking him as my dog. You see what I'm saying? Zepeda being the A side, Golden Boy card. Zepeda the A side. Zepeda being Mexican, meaning the durability, the Mexican style. These guys are really tough to stop historically, right? If you know anything about boxing over the last 100 years. His only loss being to the best fighter of his generation, Shakur Stevenson, which he was competitive enough. Wasn't winning a lot of rounds, but was really competitive. Definitely more competitive than Teofimo Lopez. So, and a lot of guys in North America think, have put Teo at the top echelon of the best of the best. With all that being said, in a lot of these close rounds that I feel it's going to be nip and tuck, I think it's a 50-50 fight. That's fair. I'm not saying Lamont is a level below or Zepeda's that much better, but you have to talk about the politics of it. In a close 50-50 fight, which I think this is, in close 50-50 rounds, which I think a lot of them will be, the optics of the rounds and the judging will go to Zepeda. I feel, and I'm not being funny here, when round one starts, Zepeda will already be up 30-27. And so why I said earlier, if Roach had a little bit more power, his legacy could look a little bit different in those close rounds that ended up draws. And if he had a little bit more power, I might think twice in taking him in this fight. But because he doesn't have that upper echelon in his backhand or in his lead hook, you think he's going to win a close fight on the cards, on a Golden Boy card against Zepeda, Oscar's boy? You got to think about that. And if you don't, and you're taking Roach then will need a couple knockdowns, and then maybe you're leaning on the stoppage. So then you're like, do you think this Lamont Roach could stop Zepeda? It's up to you. I'm not telling you who to take. I'm just letting you know. They have the Dalton and Crocker fight even. Dalton Smith. Lewis Crocker. Medic shouldn't go more than 2 rounds. Yeah. Do you think Sterling can stop Jan? I think it goes a distance. So Uros Medic, the doctor, he's talking to the UFC. I was going to fly to Serbia to see this card. Half my family, we're not Serbs, but half my family is from Prague. So my father's whole family's from former Czechoslovakia. So my last name's Slavic. And this UFC Serbia card is filled front to toe with Slavs, Czechs, um, strikers. A lot of that crowd is going to be feral in the best possible way in Serbia. Get the rakia ready. Rakia is this, I think it's a plum-based liqueur. You get off on that rakia, boy. Shoot, it's a good night. One of my close mates out here is Serbian. Shout out to Jovi. But Medic is on a 4. He's in his prime right now. Don't look at what his losses prior to this win streak. You know what I'm saying? He's in UFC. You have these small windows. MMA fighters have these small windows. Think about Steve Garcia. Even though he got stopped in the White House fight, look at the streak Mean Garcia was on to get him to that featured White House fight, in which he was looking good until he wasn't, and then he got stopped. Uros Medic in his last 4 fights have, all 4 stoppages. He's a dangerous strike. He's going against a very old Daniel Rodriguez who spent a year in a Tijuana prison, who's very limited, who's going to stand in front of Medic and strike. I think that is a tailor-made knockout prop for Medic. When you ask me, though, about the Kiwi, Sterling, Jan Blachowicz is a former champion. Jan Blachowicz is a beast. He's a big boy. He's smart. He's a little bit older, long in the tooth. I'm not going to lie to you. Seeing Jan at plus, I think, 300, I was flirting with the idea of taking him, and I still might. He's going to be in the Eastern European bloc, and the Kiwi just fought like a month ago. We know the Kiwi's grappling's not that great, and that's being kind. He uses a lot of power and athleticism, not technique, to get off of the ground. Did you watch the Blachowicz Stylebender fight? I'm just saying. I think those odds are interesting. Feed Zoo to Maury Jones. Nah, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see them do Zoo like that. Zoo, there's no way Zoo's camp would ever take that fight. I don't want to see. Zoo didn't look good. Right? You guys got pissed at me when I told you all week. I put my Zoo bet in early June. And where are all the Errol Glazers at? Because you guys were trolling my page on Instagram, on Facebook. You were talking about my girl. All because I was giving you a logical breakdown of why Tim would win. And it had nothing to do with me not liking Errol. It had everything to do with what I see as a coach and a guy who grew up in boxing, been in boxing gyms since I was a kid. You could see how a fighter moves, especially if you would have watched Errol's whole career. You would have seen how he moved, how he used to move, and you would know that he doesn't move that way anymore. That being said, Tim doesn't move the same way anyway either. I didn't like the way Tim was reacting to Errol's punches. Like, watch the first few rounds. Tim would get hit with Errol's telegraph looping left, and Tim would kind of like straighten up. He would straighten up, and that's a response that is not. It's a sign of a guy not taking punches well. So I'm not sitting here just because Tim won saying that Tim's going to be a world champion at 160. You got to be very careful with his matchmaking. He is only 31, so we'll see. What made you so confident too? Watch my videos, watch my breakdown. I gave it to you. I outlined it to you. I'm a little bit tired of talking about that fight. I got to be honest with you. I'm a little bit burned out too, boys. So this is why you haven't seen any Stats Don't Lie videos this week. I wanted to do a Stats Don't Lie video. There's a Zepeda fight, of some other fights, but those, that requires a lot of creative energy for me. It takes about 5 hours to film with my equipment and edit. And after, we've been on such a roll. I've been, so if you have any questions on the breakdowns, just ask. That's why I've been doing like hour and a half, 2 hour live streams for the boys. Roach got a chin though. Roach is a dog, man. Like, I'm not saying Zepeda's not a one-punch knockout guy. His power comes from punch placement, body punching, and volume. But he does have early stoppages as well. I'm not saying Roach doesn't have a chin. Guys, if you're new to the channel, the one thing that I'm never going to do is glaze a fighter. I can tell the channel's growing. I remember not long ago we had 10 people on our live. Every live stream's over 100. You know, we're a betting community. So if you're new here, and I'm going against your fighter, it's not like I'm talking shit about Roach. Roach is world class. Roach is a former world champion. I would pick Roach. I just don't think stylistically this is a good fight for him. Johnny, Bobby Green just beat the brakes off of Bang Antonio Williams in sparring. Bang Antonio Williams? His best moments happen in draws. Am I lying? No, I'm talking his... All right. You guys are the best. I'll show you. (25-1-3), 3 draws, right? Who's his best win? Who's his best win? Who's Lamont Roach's best win? We know that one loss came in like 2019, 2020 to Jamel Herring. I'm a big Jamel Herring fan. So, and when I do film study, guys, I'm only going, you know, depending on how active the fighter is, I'm only going back 2 to 3 fights. That's all you really need to do. You don't have to. So I'm not judging Lamont by his only loss to Jamel. You know what I'm saying? But when you're looking at his best wins, he's coming off the draw against Roach or against Cruz, in which he was knocked down in the 3rd. He gets dropped in the 3rd. Cruz gets a point deducted in the 7th. The fight ends in a draw. Then he's coming off the draw against Tank. If they would have awarded Roach with the knockdown, I think in the 9th, the controversial moment, it would have been a Roach win. Obviously, that would have been a career-defining win. Personally, I feel Lamont Roach beat Tank that night. I feel that should be a win for Lamont Roach. He really impressed me that night. I already was a fan. I was really impressed with his catch and countering. He had Tank's timing on point. He got hit a lot, though, as well. When you rewatch that fight, it was a very competitive fight. I wish we would have seen the rematch. Thing never happened, okay? And so those were pretty much his 2 fights up from 130. Lamont Roach is a guy who's cut his teeth at 130, right? He fights Tank at 35 and he fights Pitbull at 40. This fight against Zepeda is at 35. Keep in mind, he's a guy who was a world champion in a division below. Okay. Probably his best win is a split decision win over Hector Luis Garcia, but Garcia was coming off a knockout loss. So he beats Garcia by split, dropped Garcia in the 12th, so he needed that knockdown to get the split decision in his favor. Garcia was already, dare I say, damaged goods. He had gotten stopped prior to that fight. You know, him and Zepeda both have fought Rene Alvarado. Roach, you know, clean swept him. You know, dominated Alvarado. Zepeda stopped Alvarado. Now, I don't like doing boxing mats. I'm just clarifying they do have a common opponent. Other than there, what do you like? Like, what are we seeing here? I don't like, we're coming at it from a logical perspective. I don't think it's a shocking statement to say that Lamont Roach's best moments come in draws, right? And if you're going to argue that with me, then you're going to have to say his best win is against a guy in Garcia who was coming off a knockout loss. So, and don't even sell me on Fergal McCory. I'm not even, as you can tell, I'm not even going to entertain you saying Fergal McCory is his best win. So those playing along, just so you know, we are a stats-based, research-based, film study-based betting community. Lamont Roach's best win is a win he won by split decision in a fight that he needed a 12th round knockdown to get the split over a guy who had just got knocked out against Tank Davis. That's all I'm going to say. Now you're going to say, and you should say this, who is Zepeda's best wins? Zepeda has wins over former world champions, Tevin Farmer. And if you got, and what I've seen a lot, and this is where I'll hold you to it, I'm going to hold you accountable. I've seen guys on boxing forums trying to undersell or undervalue Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer's freaking world class. He's been world class. Former world champion. He's a nightmare for anyone. If you want to judge him for his recent performances, the first round knockout loss most recently against Auntie Sco, you could do that, but you would be ill-advised. You'd be selling him short. Zepeda, he was in very competitive fights with Farmer. Farmer beats a lot of people. Farmer is, generally super durable, super skilled, very versatile, very awkward. And so you got to think about that as well. So, I don't think that that's shocking to say that Roach's, moments have come in fights that he didn't win. And I said the same thing last week. One of the fractals of why I liked Jaleel against Derevyanchenko, many reasons I like Jaleel Hackett. I saw a lot of you sharps taking Derevyanchenko. You know who you are. But one of the reasons I like Jaleel last week, and it's parallels to this, is you have to look at the psychology of a fighter in terms of Derevyanchenko. Yes, he had never been stopped. Tough, right? Yet he was turning 41 in October, a little bit older, right? But people were saying, he's super durable. His resume's insane. He beat Triple G. Really beat him, but it was a loss. So you're telling me I'm going to bet on a guy in Derevyanchenko whose best moments came in losses. When you think about Derevyanchenko's career, tough as nails, warrior, absolute stud. Even the fight last weekend, absolutely admirable. He got the brakes beaten off of him against, in my opinion, a future world champion in the 23-year-old Jaleel Hackett. What a stud Hackett is. Dog. And so I was like, I can't bet on a guy whose best wins were losses. Lamont Roach's best wins are draws. I don't know how he's going to deal with the output. Lamont Roach averages, I shared this stat in our Discord. Lamont Roach, the stats are pretty intriguing. I put this up on my Instagram too, and I don't want to misspeak here. I'll pull it up. I shared my film study notes. Okay. Zepeda, on average, throws an average of 95 punches around. Averages 95 around. Lamont Roach averages 44 around. In a close fight, when the volume punching swarmer is the A side, optically, who do you think is going to get those close rounds? So unless you're Lamont Roach's training partners, unless you're Lamont Roach's family, unless you were his neighbor, I understand. And he may win this fight. It's a very close fight. But you still have to think about when you're betting your hard-earned money on which side to go on, it should be in the conversation. It should be like, all right, you have to talk politics. It's like the top rank A side thing. It's like the eye of the tiger thing. It's like Golden Boy A side sort of thing. It's like Australian no limit cards. We know about promotional bias. You should at least, if you're not thinking of that before you put your bet in, you're doing yourself a disservice. It was a silly wordplay joke. Furious maths debater, get it? I'm lost. Zepeda is 37. No, he's not. William Zepeda is 37. Are you insane, bro? Look, real. The last thing you're gonna do, he's 30. He's younger than Roach. Are you new to boxing, bro? And look, I'm not being impatient with you. It's just that our community, the JSB insiders, were very research based. So for you to just think that he was 37, man, I just want you to do a little bit more homework. Because I don't want the boys to troll you. I don't want you to get sort of like For you to, and you said it, 37, bro. He's 30. He's younger than Roach. I can see Zepeda overwhelming Roach and clearly goes over 10.5. However, I can see a scenario where Zepeda can get dropped. Yeah, he could get dropped. Lamont Roach has good timing. Yeah, see, the boys are good. And this is why I feel our community is one of the most legit online, and we're growing. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't allow casual bullshit in our group. Our Discord's moderated, and people learn. We're not here to clown him. He might have thought old mate was 37, but if you were going to use age, because it sounded like old mate was going to use his age as a sort of crutch to narrate his reason on, like, nah, bro. You better come with me a path to victory. How is Lamont going to steal rounds? How is Lamont going to win rounds? Is he going to be on the front foot? How's he going to negate Zepeda's power? Well, Lamont does have timing to negate Zepeda's power, but does he have the output? Does Lamont have that sort of power, though, to deter Zepeda into a plan B? That's my biggest thing. If Lamont had a little bit more pop, I would entertain the fact that he would be able to keep Zepeda at bay, but he doesn't. I think this fight is going to look like, in terms of like the scorecards, I think it could look like Arnold Barboza Jr. versus Kenny Sims Jr. And it was shocking we got Barboza at plus 140. It reminds me of that. I feel this fight to me has that feel. Zepeda got dropped by Farmer's a freaking beast, dude. You guys keep. All right, I gotta remind. I love revisionist history. I love, and this is another thing. If you're new to the channel, you're not gonna hear any of us call fighters bums. You're not gonna hear any of us call fighters trash. We're gonna hold you accountable. So for this comment to me sounds like you must not know about Tevin Farmer. And now what we get to do as a team is we get to educate folks. Because, dude, Tevin Farmer was a goddamn savage, dude. Doesn't have a perfect record. Go watch his career. 34-9. Though a lot of these losses, in my opinion, he could easily be 39-4. Maybe 40-3. Obviously, the knockout, you're not going to change the knockouts. The knockout to Floyd. 2 close losses to Zepeda. I mean, I felt he was having really good moments against Morataya. You guys rate Morataya. You guys think, the casuals, they see one good performance, and all of a sudden that's their favorite fighter. You know what I'm saying? So like Morataya beats Andy Cruz in a very close decision. Morataya is a beast. He's a lot, he's getting better and better. But go rewatch the Tevin Farmer fight. Tevin Farmer was ultra competitive in all of those rounds. Morataya is a world champion. Jojo Diaz, former world champion, Team USA member. And then other than that, I mean, the Jose Pedraza knockout in 15 years ago. My point is, you can't just throw away, like, that is a very, very, very weak argument to say that, well, Zepeda got dropped against Tevin Farmer. Guess what? Roach got dropped against Pitbull Cruz. Pitbull Cruz is not a world-class operator in the ring. If you're playing that game and you want to negate you want to cancel those out, there you go. In recent fights, I put Tevin Farmer in his prime boxes the ears off of Pitbull Cruz. Zepeda, Medician. I'm going to look at those odds in a second. Roach is going to outbox Zepeda probably in moments, but I think people are really underselling how good of a boxer Zepeda is just because of his volume. Go rewatch the Shakur fight. Zepeda was giving Shakur a lot of issues. Shakur had to answer a lot of questions with his movement, his angles. He was sharp. He wasn't wasting too much. What Shakur showed me in that fight is, unlike how inefficient he was being with his defensive movements against Edwin De Los Santos, he couldn't afford to be that inefficient with Zepeda. He had to be sharper with his movements. And you know, will Roach outbox Zepeda the entire fight? I don't think he has the gas tank to do it. I don't think he has the power to do it. I don't think he has the versatility to do it. I think that Zepeda's style, for a guy in Roach who his strengths, I feel, rely on his feet needing to be set. I feel his strengths rely on his opponents in 50-50 exchanges, catching and countering. I don't think Zepeda is going to give him the opportunity to look good in too many moments. So could Zepeda get caught coming in? Maybe. It could happen. Like I said, when we started this, I think it's a 50-50 fight. But I don't think, if I felt Roach had the power to stop Zepeda, I think it'd be a little bit different. I don't think Roach has the power to stop Zepeda. So with that being said, I think Zepeda wins based on everything we spoke about. Volume, A side, output, close rounds being scored to the A side, the optics of what the judges are seeing, all that good stuff. I think Zepeda starts the fight quick, but Lamont will ease the storm. I don't know. I've heard this narrative as well. Lamont doesn't end fights well either. Like, there's history. You know, it's not like Lamont wrote. He is a slow starter and he gives early rounds away. And going into round one, Zepeda will be up 30-27. It's a joke, but you got to think he will be, all things considered. So you're betting. So what Jockson Rojas is saying here is, then you're betting on Lamont Roach, who's the favorite, to rally. I'd much rather bet on Zepeda, who's the underdog, to be up early. Roach going to the body is slow. He's not the biggest body puncher, though. Not the biggest body puncher. That's the thing. The thing I do like about Roach is his style. He fights like he's a bigger puncher than he is. He'll mix it up with you, but Zepeda's good in the pocket. I'm thinking about it, big homie. I'm thinking about it. You know I'm thinking about it. Dude, the odds are freaking insane. Bro, the only thing we're going to be hesitant on, dude, plus 270 is absolutely insane. Sterling's biggest weakness is his grappling. He only has 10 pro fights. We know he's younger. Jan's a former world champion. He's a big boy. You just got to worry about the age and inactivity of Jan. But other than that, if we're talking about a live ass dog, plus 270, hey man, I'm here for it. Early thoughts on Puello, Dalton Smith. Ooh, great fight. I'm a fan of Alberto Puello. Alberto Puello has a lot to deal with at 140. Long, tall. I felt Puello beat Matias. Puello's always in these nice little close fights as well. Puello versus Sander Martin was a great fight. Puello versus GAR. 100% you could count on this. Alberto Puello is not going to fight Dalton Smith like Subriel Matias fought Dalton Smith. Subriel Matias basically did what the only thing he knows how to do. Let's pull out our dicks and see who's the biggest. And that's where I took Subriel. I didn't think Dalton was like that. Dalton had to prove to me. And as a bettor, you should never bring ego into your bets. So, over time, there will be fighters who you'll either bet for or you'll fade, who you'll tell yourself, well, I'm fading him now, but he's going to have to prove it to me. If he proves it to me, I'll reconsider how I feel about him. I didn't know Dalton. I know you Brits knew, which is fine. And I'm not saying that I didn't know. I didn't think he'd be able, like, him standing there and playing Matias's game and winning at Matias's game. Jesus, Dalton Smith's a lot to deal with. The thing about that though is when you rewatch Dalton Smith versus Jermaine Matthew, the Eye of the Tiger fighter from Canada, who came down to the UK. Dalton won every round. It wasn't like Jermaine Matthew was competitive, but it went the distance. And Matthew was a veteran guy who knew how to use the ring, who really was fighting negative, really wasn't fighting to win. But he was kind of frustrating Dalton a bit in terms of Dalton was obviously a seek and destroy sort of guy that night, wanted to get him out of there, and he couldn't. Now, Alberto Puello is a tall, long, slick guy at 140. He could use the ring. He'll mix it up with you in the pocket. He's gonna make Dalton answer. He's gonna make Dalton Smith answer a lot of questions. He's not just gonna stand there and give Dalton the fight Matias did. So I'm excited for that fight. Sterling is bigger than Jan. Also, you can't bring up Stylebender. He's way past being the same. You got to talk about it. I mean, you can't bring up style. You got to talk about Stylebender can't grapple. Sterling can't grapple. Jan grappled Stylebender. Jan will probably grapple Sterling. What do you mean you can't talk about it? Tofik Musayev. Hell nah. Hell to the nah. You're talking about he's fighting one of my favorite UFC fighters. Eli is back. Sup, Johnny? I'm with you on Zepeda. I haven't heard anything in Belodi Barney. Why is Belodi a plus 1,000 by decision with his resume pedigree? Yeah, so I'm really high on Royce and Barney Smith. For the sake of this chat, I will call him RBS. I think RBS is, we know he's the younger guy, the fresher guy. I think he's good at range. He's aggressive. He could punch. He's athletic. He's been one of my favorite guys to keep an eye on from a prospect perspective from the UK. He's been putting on shows. And from most recently, what Reese Belotti's most recent version has looked, it's not shocking to say Reese is on the back nine. I actually think RBS stops him. Could be shocking. It's not supposed to be that controversial. When you watch the last few fights from Reese and RBS, you kind of would get my gist there. I rate Royce. O'Leary looks locked in. I like Chamberlain, but I see a 117, 112. O'Leary's a beast. I'm probably going to I'll do a UFC stream later. Tim completed the July 4th. Let's go, Eli. We got so much pushback on it, bro. We got so much pushback. We were getting trolled. I was getting racially discriminated upon. Who this white boy? He don't know how to tell. He don't know boxing. Who's this guy? The Errol Spence. But I expected it. They came at me in 2023 when I picked Bud, and I knew they were going to come back. And they came back in full force. People get emotional over this game. It's the greatest sport in the world. The last thing as a bettor you should ever do is get emotional. People having breakdowns on live streams. You can't be getting emotional. The highest, they say, one of the highest levels of intelligence is being able to control your emotions. It's one of the, I used to teach, I went to grad school for leadership and personal development in Las Vegas. I used to teach corporates, Fortune 500 suit people, I would call them. I would teach them leadership training in long sort of courses to where you're putting them in these very stressful scenarios and you see how they deal with it. And you'd be, it's normal for men to break apart during stressful scenarios in life. So the secret is to train yourself in these stressful scenarios in life to be calm. Controlling one's emotions is a very high sign of intelligence. Don't forget that. It sounds like the logical game plan, but Zepeda going to still take advantage. I can't believe the one dude said that Zepeda was 37, and he said it as a flex. It's like, bro, what are you doing? Antonio Williams, I'm not, you talking about the UFC fighter? Yeah, it's hard for me to flip back and forth with Bobby Green streaming, and I know who you're talking about. I'm not trying to be cavalier about me not focusing on the comment, but I'm going to do a UFC stream later on today. His best win is Hector. Yep. Which was a split, which he needed a knockdown in the 12th to get the split, which Hector was coming off a knockout loss to Tank. Not saying it means anything. We should at least bring it up. What's your early thoughts on Jordan White versus Luis Torres Valenzuela? I don't have one, Gil. Gil, man, Gil's one of our mods in the Discord. He keeps his eye on the pulse of the odds globally. So I have no ego about this. For what I do and what makes us successful at this, I have to keep my eye one fight card at a time. So this fight isn't in front of us, but I'll look into it after this weekend. Appreciate you, Gil. Y'all be careful with O'Leary on the Julius. Julius? Oh, Julius, we know. Look, mate, if you're obviously if you're right by picking Chamberlain, I'm gonna give you your flowers. I just don't see it. Julius is taking Chamberlain, which is fine. When I saw the odds 2 months ago, my boots were dug in. So Pierce appears on my quarterly parlay. Pierce appears on my July-August parlay. And that's about it right now. I'm gonna get fancy, have to get sexy about it. I'm gonna play a method. But if you're seeing what I'm not seeing and Mark wins, shout out, baby. I don't think he's getting hyped. Pierce was a great amateur. He's accurate. I think O'Leary's jab is going to control the fight. And then he's also a counter boxer. So when we're talking stylistically and we look how aggressive Chamberlain likes to fight, Chamberlain, I get why he has a fan base. This is the guy that Turki Al-Sheikh once said was his favorite fighter. And then he fought Josh Padley and got dropped early and then was never able to build himself back into that fight. It was a massive upset. Why does this happen? Chamberlain is a guy who comes in a little bit aggressive, a little bit loopy, not as technical on the defensive side, chin a little bit high, a little bit tall for the division. He was actually fighting. This fight's a division up. And so maybe it was the case that Chamberlain was cutting too much weight. Maybe he was boiling himself down too much. But O'Leary's sharp. He's accurate. He could crack. And he could counter. So I feel it could look easy. O'Leary jumps on that jab. Chamberlain's super aggressive. O'Leary lets Chamberlain get on the front foot, uses his jab a little bit to keep him at range, and then baits him into walking onto something. And it's in O'Leary's hometown. You got to think about the close rounds. You got to think about the A side. You got to think about where money's coming in terms of who's getting pushed and who isn't. Ireland needs a star in boxing. We've talked about this. It's why we see rabid fan bases, like you mentioned before, the Puerto Rican fan base, the Mexican fan base, the Irish fan base. Boxing is in their DNA. They need a star. They think they got one with Pierce. I don't think Chamberlain's going to be the guy to get to him. And by no means am I saying Pierce O'Leary's going to retire undefeated. I just don't think Chamberlain's the guy to get to him. Not right now, not where Pierce is at in his career, not what I've seen in his most recent tape, what he looks like, the energy he brings into his training camp, how he sounds like on the mic, the work that I've seen, how I like what his work looks like. You know what I'm saying? As a fighter, I like the sharpness. I like the aggressiveness. I like the confidence in his work. So Chamberlain comes in the B side and gets it done. I will say, hey, Julius, guess what, bro? You know boxing. He should have gotten the decision against Tank. I don't think this is even a controversial take. And this is, depending on which side of the world, don't go to Baltimore and say that. Don't go to Mexico and say that. But they were close fights. Cruz dropped. I mean, he got dropped against Cruz. Had a rally. Very close nip and tuck fight. I don't rate Pitbull Cruz. I've never rated him at the upper echelon. I think Zepeda is a level above in everything that Cruz does. The Tank fight, close. If you rewatch it, I feel that Roach won that fight. I think the knockdown should have been ruled, but it wasn't. And the history books say it wasn't. And those were draws. And that's what they were. And psychologically, as a fighter, that sticks with you. There's a confidence that comes with you when you have a belt. There's a confidence that comes with you when you win. And there's something that sticks with you when you don't win, or something that leaves you when you lose as a fighter. So the psychology of a fighter is very important. I don't like the media tour he did after the draw. I'm not saying it was as bad as Berlanga doing a victory parade after losing to Canelo. But, yeah, I think that Roach is going to fall short. I just don't think Roach gets stopped, but I do got Zepeda winning. Nice. We don't have to get sexy. If you like Zepeda, he's at plus money. You don't have to get sexy, guys. And for the one banking on Roach, TKO Zepeda, that's a double-edged sword because if he empties the tank trying to finish him after knocking Zepeda down. Dude, Roach is not a big puncher. Zepeda's best wins, we already talked about it. Tevin, world champion. Tevin beats most guys. Zepeda's coming in with one game plan. Lamont is prepared for that fight. Zepeda got no plan B. Lamont is way more versatile and can fight more than one way. Then take Lamont. I'm not. This is fine. You guys. Then when Lamont wins, he won, and then we move on. Guys, it's good to debate this stuff, but you win and move on. I have Zepeda versus Roach on one ticket. That's it. So it is the fight this weekend that has a lot of contention, and then O'Leary and Chamberlain, which is fine. But this is why we have the greatest sport in the world. We get to do this every single week. We get to talk international boxing every single week. Hands down, one ring, two men, two fists, a bell, ding ding. Who's the better man? Hands down, the greatest sport in the world. Drama all around. The casuals will, come in full force when their guy wins, and then the casuals disappear when they lose. It's what we expect. I'm on the same side as you. Zepeda didn't stop Alvarado. He didn't. I thought he did. Maybe he got dropped. As you can tell, I do, if I do slip up on something, call me out on it. I said that he stopped Alvarado. I was wrong. I have no problem saying I was wrong. When you do as many breakdowns and you're as old as I am, sometimes you miss up. Roach won't be able to develop the style and maintain it over 12 rounds. Best chances under 6, catch and shoot. Ain't no way he wins the decision. I agree. Roach didn't do enough to win versus Tank, and Tank was playing around. Is it fair to say that wasn't Tank's best version, right? Is it fair to say that wasn't Tank at his best? Is it fair to say it was probably hard for Tank to get up to fight Lamont Roach? You feel me? No shade to Roach. Tank is, we know, it's not shot. Tank is a guy who runs off of his emotions. Certain fighters have to get up for certain matchups. We've seen this time and time again. Tank's at his best when there's vitriol. Like when he Roach was the one who was trying to make it personal. Tank kind of seemed disinterested the entire time. I'm not making excuses. It's just not. We're talking about his best win was a draw here. Stop that. Roach was tougher, a little more tricky. What I took from the Lamont Roach Tank fight was Roach impressed me with timing. Tank. Also, Roach impressed me because up until that moment, we hadn't really seen Tank lose 50-50 exchanges. I think it was maybe round 4 when Lamont, maybe round 5. That's when the fight started turning. Lamont changed his tactics and he stopped using the ring and he was standing his ground in the middle. And he was starting to win 50-50 exchanges. And that's was like, holy shit, this shit's getting interesting. So win, lose, or draw, it doesn't change what I took from that fight. The good things about Lamont. He impressed me with his timing on his backhand. He impressed me with his mental. He's a dog. He's always going to be in a fight. Lamont Roach isn't ever going to quit on himself. I just think at the top level, he's going to fall short. And that's what we've seen. And I put Zepeda above him. You swung me to Zepeda, but no, I'm not trying to change any of you. Guys, stand your ground. I'm only telling you what I see. And I'm not always right. Nobody's always right. Anything could happen. If you've already dug your boots in, boys, keep them dug in. Erickson Garcia versus Alan Chavez. Oh, God. We'll get to that in a second. Tank was playing around. No, he wasn't playing around. Yeah. Tank was in a dogfight. Does Raymond get the knockout more tie? Does he stop? I mean, Conceição's 37. Never been stopped. Slick. has that, vast amateur background, former champion. You guys aren't going to like what I'm going to say. I thought Ray did impress me against Andy Cruz, but I thought Andy Cruz could have did enough to get the nod. I think this is a tough fight. I think the odds makers are super disrespectful. They have Conceição as like a 7-1 dog. This is insane right here, boys. And I don't expect you guys to know every fighter. When you think of Brazilian combat sports, you don't think of boxing. You think of jiu-jitsu, you think of MMA, you think of like those Nova Union, you know what I'm saying? Like old school Vanderlei Silva. And so like to not really know about Hobson Conceição or not really be that savvy about how good he is, Hobson Conceição is really good. I do think this is going to be a competitive fight. This is insane. And Morataya is getting better. If anything, he's getting sharper. He's always been a mean guy in there. He's very determined, comes from a great camp, sharp, aggressive. Conceição's 37. I did get Morataya, I think, a week and a half ago at $1.16, which a week and a half ago, 16% return was decent enough to throw on a quad. It put me over to plus money with one of my quads. But to see Conceição at 8-1, that's freaking insane. Never been stopped either. I went against my own strat fan super inactive fighters last week. This is yeah, activity does matter, boys. We know that. We live and learn. Daniel Neba, not sure Roach outboxes Zepeda. I love fights like this though, guys. Roach averages less than 500 a fight. Only way he beats Zepeda is that's what I've been saying all week. And he's not that big of a puncher. And dude, guys, you guys know boxing, right? You're just here for the chat. You guys know what you're talking about. Just because we've seen Zepeda on the ground, how would you describing William Zepeda's style? The problems he presents to his opponents. How switched on his opponents have to be. Did you guys hear what Shakur said about Zepeda? Zepeda's only loss is to the best fighter in the world, in my opinion. From a boxing perspective, I don't think there's a better boxer in the world than Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson praised William Zepeda as a hell of an opponent who pushed him to another level, forced him to make adjustments, and proved tough by coming forward. Stevenson also noted that Zepeda had a thumping impact with his punches rather than single punch knockout power. So you could go on and read the post fight, and it's not. Look, Shakur, I understand if for guys who have never boxed before, even for guys who fought before, that's irrelevant, I guess. The beautiful part about our sport is that all we have is this and what our body does, and then there's a vast amount of styles. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. It's just a blank canvas. And so some people like what they like. Some people like big punchers. Some people like sluggers. Some people like, defensive-minded savants. I grew up liking Pernell Whitaker. I grew up liking Paul Spadafora. The Pittsburgh kid grew up around me. So watching Paul Spadafora come through the rankings, watching him as an amateur, um, that southpaw style, and then came Errol out of the 2012 Olympics. Totally different style as a southpaw. Marauder, jab heavy, break your spirits, break your will, body puncher, take one to give one. And then Shakur, totally different, defensive savants. And like what he does there in the ring with his speed and reflexes and his high fight IQ, I think you got to take something, take it with a grain of salt what he says about Zepeda, but you can watch the whole thing. Zepeda, I think, is being coined this week as like a one-trick pony. People are just saying, oh, he just has volume. I think he does a lot more than just that. It's probably so frustrating fighting Zepeda because Roach probably knows how to outbox him, but he wouldn't get the room to breathe. He'll probably look competitive early, but slowly Zepeda will. And when you look at Roach's best moments against Tank, we talked about this, 50-50. Have we ever seen Tank lose 50-50 exchanges? What is required to have a 50-50 exchange? Stationary. Both guys plan it in. Slipping, counter, catching, timing, reflexes, all that. Zepeda doesn't fight like that. When have we ever seen Roach's best work off the back foot? He could box off the back foot. He's very skilled. He's well-rounded. It's a very interesting fight, guys. I'm only telling you what I see. I'm only telling you my take. I'm only showing you who I'm putting my money on. It's up to you to make your own decisions. So the last thing I'm ever going to do is tell you I'm an expert. I'm just a guy who grew up around the sport, who walked into a gym as a 7-year-old, who coaches the sport, who still trains, who still spars, and at 44 years old, I've almost been watching the sport for 4 decades. So depending on how old you are, I've published 2 books. In those books, sit-downs with boxing Hall of Famers, breaking down their psychology. My undergrad is in sports psych. I have a graduate degree. Why I say all that is that I'm only telling you what I see. I'm not telling you I'm right. Nobody's right 100% of the time. When I saw this fight get made, my first instinct said, ooh, that's a stylistic nightmare for Roach. And that's all I said. And I've stuck to it. Zepeda had Shakur hurt in the third. I also expect Zepeda to be the bigger. Yeah. And you got to think Zepeda's going to take something with him from the 12 rounds with Shakur. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like a Tim Tszyu getting the brakes beaten off of him against Bachram or Tim Tszyu getting beat up in the second Seb fight in which we would all agree and say Tim left a lot of himself that night in the ring, which does happen quite frequently in our sport. What also happens on the other side of that coin is when a fighter shares the ring with a guy, maybe lost every round, and that guy just happened to be one of the best in the world. In their next fight, the guy who lost, you'd have to think he takes something with him. You don't always leave something with you behind. Sometimes you take something with you. And I feel that Zepeda is going to do that. I mean, you could tell he's a thinker in there. You could tell he's a smart guy when you watch his interviews. You could tell he lives like a samurai. This is a guy who's not partying. This is a guy who has no distractions. This is a guy who has no other goal other than to become the world champion. And so that's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting a faded 30-year-old Zepeda. I think Zepeda is in his prime. And I think those 12 rounds with Shakur is only going to make him better. And I just think he's a better, I just think with what he does with his strengths, you can only do what you can do at the highest level with your strengths. And it all looks differently. Think about what Emmanuel Navarrete does with his strengths versus what Shakur does with his strengths versus what Zepeda does. Everyone's different. I just think those strengths are going to be better than Lamont's strengths. Did Kane sand him? Sugar cane. Why'd you ask that? Roach has to stop him if he wants to win the fight. Dalton tipped that boy Subaru off with a balance. Good whack to the side of the head. Dalton's a beast. You guys aren't going to like my take on Rolly versus Tio. I know that. Only thing is, there's no such when you're in your prime, I would not call 12 months off being inactive. I think inactivity usually starts, especially with a guy. Look, variables do matter. You know, if he was a guy who was coming off a stoppage loss, if he was a guy who had a slugging style, if he was a guy who was, you know, in these back and forth wars, but a guy like Zepeda, you know, he wants a world title. You know, maybe he was recovering, maybe he had to recover from a hand. Maybe he was waiting, maybe Oscar was in his ear. I was like, hey, mate, you wait a little bit. Shakur's going up. They're going to strip him. That belt's going to be vacant. We're going to make a fight of two guys who came off losses to become the world champion, which is a whole nother conversation that we're getting a world title fight. We're getting a world title fight from two guys. One's coming off an L, one's coming off a draw. I'm glad somebody's saying it. I scored the fight Tank 8-4 in favor of Roach. I'd have to rewatch it. I agree. Berlanga. See, Rojas. I agree. And this is where when most people clown Berlanga for that, I kind of like him for it. Our sport is filled with different characters. Go back in the history books. There's been, you know, the characters like Berlanga make our sport good. They do outlandish things. They act out of the box. They have victory parades when they get the brakes beaten off of them. Most people will use it against them. I kind of like them for it. But personally, I like contrarians. I've always been sort of drawn to people who do things their own way. He won me a lot of money, too, by stopping Butler. Shout out to I the Tiger. I the Tiger have been feeding our Discord for like a year and a half, a year. Shout out to I the Tiger for manufacturing Butler for us. All right, I'm going to get off here soon. My boy Jay's about to go live. Grandmaster Johnny, been subscribed for a while based on objective takes. Thank you. Haven't been in a Discord since college. Probably make way. Appreciate you, man. The first time I ever heard of Discord was from you guys last August. I never heard of it. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. We got a bunch of people in here, JSB Insiders. On that note, hands down, the best community in boxing. Go over to my boy Jay Knows Boxing's YouTube channel. He just launched it. Subscribe to him. He's going live right now. Super sharp mind. He'll win you a lot of money as well. He's one of our secret weapons. Not so secret now because he's gone public. But best community in the world, man. Thanks, guys.